Hello, this is Justin Williams with the Wolfpacker podcast. I'm joined today, as always, by editor of the Wolfpacker.com and fellow co host, Matt Carter. And today we're going to break down NC State's 55-3 drubbing of Charleston Southern in week 2. NC State advances to 2-0 on the season. So we will get into the details of our thoughts, reflections, etc., and maybe a little look ahead to Texas Tech, although we'll preview Texas Tech fully a little bit later on next week. But before we do that, some quick notes for the listeners and viewers at home. Please remember you can subscribe, rate, and review this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Google Play, we're there. You can also watch us on YouTube, so please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment while you're at it. We're on social media. You can follow our main account at the Wolfpacker. You can follow me personally at Justin H. Will on Twitter. And give us a like on Facebook, NC State Wolfpack on the Wolfpacker.com. Last but not least, sign up for a special deal going on at the Wolfpacker.com. For just $1, you can get a year's worth of premium subscription to the Wolfpacker.com as part of the On3 network. Great deal, greatest deal in sports media right now, has been for the past several months, still is. So if you have not taken advantage of that deal yet, please do so. You're doing yourself a huge favor because you will be the most informed NC State fan at your tailgate. And yeah, you got 2 more of them coming up in the next couple weeks here with Texas Tech and UConn coming to town. But you had your first tailgate of the season today. And I guess I'll start with this, Matt. A lot less stressful of a Saturday than last Saturday was. If you had some things to do on Saturday, you had some chores to do later on in the afternoon. This just was not one of those games that absorbs your whole day. And, you couldn't say that last week in a 1-point skin of your teeth win against ECU. But Matt, how was it to be back in Carter Finley Stadium and to see a game that kind of went as we expected, unlike last week where NC State was able to take care of business very quickly, no problems, and yeah, they move on to week 3 2-0.
Yeah, and it's also good. A personal note, good to be back in a live football game because I missed the East Carolina game while getting over. Well, I wasn't getting over. I was done with COVID, but I still had the 1 day left of quarantine. I think something like that. I think, and also a shout out to Justin for the great video of the East Carolina analysis. If you want to go check that out, I hope it's pinned to the top of your Twitter.
It's on Twitter. I don't tweet a lot, so you'll find it if you go to
Yeah,
the Twitter page.
yeah, that was an awesome video. But yeah, as for the game today, yeah, it was good to be there. It wasn't the best weather today, very cloudy, a little bit of rain, and obviously the lack of anticipation about the opponent probably had diluted the crowd a little bit, and a little bit of the enthusiasm. But NC State handled business. That was my column actually, was back to business, right? You did what you were supposed to do this week, unlike a previous week. You did what you were supposed to do this week. And now your new line of business is getting back for a real opponent. So, all due respect to Charleston Southern, it's not even a good FCS team. It's a middle of the road Big South Conference team in the FCS. So it's hard to take away a whole lot. The only thing that was exciting about the game for NC State is that they did what they wanted to do. With, if they wanted to throw it, they threw it. If they wanted to run it, they ran it. The total yard differential was gigantic. All the signs you wanted to see of a dominant, authoritative type performance you saw. And that's really the main takeaway. And they were healthy. They held out a couple of defensive plays. Peyton Wilson, who did warm up, but he didn't play. And then Shaheem Battle, Dave Dorn said they should be ready next week. I can't recall seeing the trainer come on the field once for NC State. Now, MJ Morris, the backup true freshman quarterback, did take a hard hit late in the game, but he went back in. So other than him, he was the only one who I saw getting some treatment from the trainer, but he was able to walk off. After the hit, his helmet fell off. He went to the sideline. They took a look at him. He went in. So, yeah, I mean, isn't that the number one thing in a game like this? Is that nobody gets hurt?
Look, yeah, I mean, that's objective A, B, and C in this game. Well, other than winning, which
Yeah,
of course was never in question. Um, if every game was like last week, I mean, all your hairs would turn gray, or you'd lose them. I mean,
or my
you
beard.
need yeah, you need a couple weeks like this in the season. So not every week. I'm sure next week will be maybe a little bit more stressful. Maybe not. Who knows? We'll see if NC State takes care of business. But I think there are some positive things to take away from this game. You don't want to make too much about a game like this because, yes, it's Charleston Southern. It's an FCS opponent. It's the lone FCS opponent on NC State's schedule. It's by far the easiest game on NC State's schedule. That said, in week one, NC State showed some problematic signs that you wanted to see maybe addressed this week. And I think that was the case. And for me, the number one concern that I had in the first game was just that Devin Leary did not look comfortable. He didn't look like the Devin Leary that we expected to see this season. And as I kind of predicted going into this game, this was a get right game for Leary. Went 16 to 25, 238 yards, 4 touchdowns, accounted for another. He looked very comfortable, had some good throws. Maybe a couple he'd like to have back. It wasn't like an A+ perfect game, but it was definitely an A. So good for him to get his confidence back in this game. The one thing that I texted Matt that I was annoyed when Devin Leary ran in that first touchdown because, man, that was a great run that Devin Leary had. What was about an 11, 12-yard run up the middle where he kept it. I think it was like 3rd and 10 too. So QB draw there, and Leary gets in the end zone, knocks over a couple defenders on his way. I mean, it's great to see, but at the same time, it's also horrifying to see because you don't want your quarterback to make himself vulnerable like that, especially when, 2 seasons ago he was out for the season when he decided to run and kind of halfway committed between a slide and not sliding. So, if I'm Tim Beck, if I'm the offensive staff, I'm saying, Devin, appreciate the hustle, love the effort, but we don't need 6 points as opposed to 3 that badly against Charleston Southern in week 2 when there's a lot of question marks waiting behind you. I mean, this team is going to go as far as Devin Leary takes it. So, don't want to see more of that. It's fine if Leary picks up a few yards here and there to escape the pocket, but you don't want to see him make himself vulnerable because I don't really think he's that kind of player.
Yeah, that was. I was surprised by the play call too. I think it was third and. I don't even
3rd
know.
and long.
It was 3rd and long at like the 12-yard line. So it was a gutsy play call. Yeah, I think that's one of those moments. You know what? If you're gonna put that on tape for an opponent, this is a good game to do it. Type of deal, and that's my guess that they figured. Yeah, now teams will have to respect it a little bit. I don't know how much they'll respect Devin Leary on a QB draw, but sometimes it's good to put that on film just for that. Kind of agree with you. Probably wouldn't have been my cup of tea to make that play call. Interesting development in this game is kind of one of the storylines from the game. The move of Tim Beck, offensive coordinator for NC State, from the sideline to the coach's box upstairs. He had been calling plays on the sideline since he'd been at NC State. And Dave Doran was kind of somewhat blunt about the move. He said that there was probably got too many moments had happened where, when they went back and looked at the film on Sunday, Tim Beck or the coordinator would say, if I knew that was out there, I would have called this play call or something like that. I would have called this if I'd known that. And Doran kind of hinted at his own experience, having called games from both as a defensive coordinator from both the sideline and the box. You get a lot more information more quickly processed when you're viewing it with your own eyes of who's on the field and what the personnel package is, and he just decided he basically kind of had enough of that, and so he flipped back upstairs for the first time, and something I think he said he intends to keep that way going forward. And Kurt Roper will handle the communications with the quarterback on the sideline. Kurt Roper has been a quarterback coach in a long time. He was actually his first year at NC State. He was a quarterback coach before switching to running back coach. So they feel comfortable with Kurt being on the sideline, and Tim Beck moves upstairs. So it's kind of one of those very little interesting. In a game like this, you take any subplot you can get, right, to kind
And
of to go for.
that is exactly why it's important to be at the game as a beat reporter. Matt Carter, that's why he's one of the best in the biz. And that's another reason why you should subscribe to the wolfpacker.com. So take advantage of that deal a year for just $1. But no, it's a little point, but I think it's a huge one, Matt. I mean, think about you commented to me off air last week when you watched the ECU NC State game that you didn't like watching the game on TV because you could just see the game a lot better in person from the press box because you get that all 22 view. That's super important when it comes to something like play calling, especially when, anytime you ask Tim Beck about, his philosophy behind play calling, it's always, well, I'm a big believer in taking what the defense gives you. Well, what better way to see that, what the defense is giving you than be at a bird's eye view where you can see every player on the field. And, I would imagine it's also probably easier to get your emotions kind of caught up in the moment when you're on the sideline and you're kind of in the heat of the battle where you can probably kind of have more of a stoic view on the game from the press box. As for communication, that's why you got headsets. I'm sure he'd be able to communicate from the press box as well as he could from the sideline. But, interesting point, and I think that's something to watch here. Maybe a positive development for NC State just to kind of see the play calls being made in a more efficient manner. So something to watch there. But I do want to talk about the defense a little bit, unless you wanted to
I can
get
tell
another
you
point.
real quickly, bottom line results, 55 points. It was all offense. They were set up by some good field position on a few possessions, some nice punt returns. They had a nice kickoff return once. Tyler Baker-Williams, as we get here, had some big turnovers that set him up with some short fields as well. But all 55 points were offense related, or off of offense drives. So,
Not special teams.
yeah.
Step it up, special teams.
And no defensive touchdowns either. This is the first time that NC State had broken 50 points in a game since the East Carolina 2018 regular season finale that they won 58-3, if I recall. Tim Beck got here in 2020, so this is the most points NC State has ever scored with Tim Beck as coordinator, and it came in his first game, calling plays up in the box. So, coincidence? We'll see.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm glad you stopped me before I transitioned to defense because one last thing on the offense, Demi Sumo is the truth. He's really good. I can't wait to see what he's going to do in ACC play and once they start playing some Power 5 opponents because through 2 games, one against an American athletic opponent, yes, it's not Power 5, but ECU's got some men on that field. Charleston Southern, again, you don't want to take away too much. It's still a defense, still college athletes out there, but Demi Sumo just looked like an automatic first down every time he touched the ball. The stats back that up: 7 attempts, 70 yards, average 10 a carry, and there was that one little stretch there where I think he ran for like 2 or 3 first downs in a row on 2 or 3 consecutive runs. I mean, he kind of looked like a miniature Derrick Henry out there, just running over people, and he's got the speed where he just, it's kind of like a snowball effect. He just, builds that momentum. He just keeps getting faster as he keeps going. So positive development there as well. Can't wait to see more of him. I I thought Jordan Houston looked good with his attempts too. By the way, that's not to take away anything from him.
And kind of quietly, East Carolina. I watched a good bit of their game against Old Dominion just out of curiosity. Old Dominion beat Virginia Tech in week 1. They had negative rushing yards until their final run gave them like a 20-yard gain or something like that, and they went from -7 to like 13. There was actually a graphic on the bottom of the screen of the last time East Carolina held a team to negative rushing yards. So, maybe that rushing by Demi Sumo Conbe was a little more impressive than we folks gave him credit for, which goes back to what I said a million times. You need to wait about 3 to 4 weeks before drawing really good conclusions about college football season.
Well, we're halfway there. I think we can really safely start drawing some conclusions. Maybe after next week, NC State will get 3 games into the season. It'll be a nice measuring stick opportunity for NC State. I think it'll give us a fuller picture as to whether or not week 1 was more an indication of what this team will be, or if it was a one-off type game where, maybe NC State didn't put forth its best effort, corrects the ship the next week, and then takes care of business the next week. But speaking of something that I haven't really seen many issues with this year, the defense in the first half, when the first string defense was out there, Charleston Southern just didn't stand a chance. I mean, it wasn't fair. So, again, it's one of those situations where it's like, how much do you want to take away from it? But the defense did what it goes out there to do, which is not allow the opposing offense to gain any momentum or, really any first downs there. How many first downs did Charleston Southern have in the first half? Like, you can count on one hand.
Yeah, they had a first down on the first drive, and then the next, I am looking at it now here, the next 1, 2, 3, next 3 drives were 3 and outs. Then they finally kind of sustained a little bit of a drive, but it ended up with a turnover on downs. And then they punted. They didn't have a whole lot in the first half, obviously. And at halftime, they had 80 yards of total offense on 31 plays, which if you do the math off the top of your head, that's less than 3 yards per play. For some perspective, at halftime, NC State had 344 yards of total offense. So that was the difference, 344 to 80. Again, you couldn't really take a whole lot out of it. Other than Charleston Southern, you knew that we talked about it in the preview podcast, they were going to throw the football. And man, did they throw the football. I mean, it was one quick pass after another. We ended up with 47 pass attempts. And that doesn't count sacks. So there was a sack in there. So at least 48 passing plays, and I'm sure there were some QB runs, which made the game an exhausting 3.5 hours by the end of the day. But overwhelmed. I guess the only nitpicky thing is they didn't get a shutout, right? Delbert Mims fumble set Charleston Southern up with good field position, and their kicker was really good. He made a 48-yard field goal that would have been good from about 55. So if you're an FBS team and Sam Babbage has some eligibility left and you're looking for a kicker after this year, you might want to look up Sam Babbage from Charleston Southern.
NC State could be looking for a kicker next year.
They could. Had Christopher Dunn, by the way, 46 and 45-yard field goals in this game. So
he's good. He's been good since he's been here.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, it's just every time you talk about Charleston Southern, it's like, okay, well, let's just fast forward the videotape, get to a real game, then we can finally, believe what you're seeing as opposed to, is this an illusion? But yeah, NC State looked more like the number 13 ranked team in the country today than it did a week ago. You want to get to game balls?
Well, I just say too, to add to your point, because we're not going to talk about Texas Tech too much, but
Texas Tech beat number 24 Houston, by the way, this week.
That's right. I'm about to say won in overtime on their home field, but they did win in overtime. A big late drive. I watched the end of that game too. They had a late drive to kick a game tying field goal. I think they converted like a 4th and 20 in the first overtime and scored a touchdown to force the second overtime, and then they won it on a touchdown after Houston kicked a field goal. They scored a touchdown to win it. Um, what you know is you have a capable team coming to Raleigh. So it's good measuring sticks, and in some ways the schedule has kind of shaped up somewhat nice. You had an East Carolina team. You play them on the road. They had a nice lopsided win over Old Dominion in response, and you get a complete, you know, glorified scrimmage with Charleston Southern. Now you're back into it, testing yourself against a very credible Power 5 team that got a top 25 win under its belt. So, in a way, the non-conference schedule is setting up somewhat nicely to test and find yourself out before you get into the games that really count and really matter.
Well, I guess while we're looking ahead a little bit in the schedule, I guess we could do a quick Clemson tracker. They won 35-12 over Furman.
Yeah.
But shout out to Furman for scoring 12 points on the Clemson defense.
Yeah, I just want to say with that too. So everybody who tweets why is NC State playing this game against Charleston Southern? All the big boys do it. I don't like the game. All right, I'm with you. I hate those kind of games. They know. I told a buddy of mine before the game, sports is about anticipation, and there's no anticipation for the game. But the big boys do it. You know how I know? Who won the national championship last year? Georgia. Who played Georgia last year? Charleston Southern. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Clemson playing Furman. Alabama playing Louisiana Monroe or something like that next week. They all do it. Every team in the country goes and finds one of these type of games. There's a benefit to them. It's just not it's not a fan-friendly game. But it has some benefits. And that's that.
Well, end of lecture.
Thank you.
That was good. I agree. It's not fun, but you need at least one automatic W. I mean, in NC State's case, they have 2 on the schedule, automatic W's. We'll get to the other one in a couple of weeks. We don't have to start previewing UConn. With that, let's give out our game balls. Matt, I'll let you start off.
Yeah, Devin Leary put his name in school history with a couple of quarterbacks named Phillip Rivers and Mike Glennon. Phillip Rivers could be a Hall of Famer in the NFL. Mike Glennon made himself enough money to live off of probably for the rest of his life playing in the NFL. And Devin Leary tied their school record of 6 touchdowns responsible. Threw for 4, ran for 2, doubled his career rushing yard touchdown total. Probably took a couple hits harder than he wanted to on the one run, walked in on the other, but it wasn't a perfect game. Got away with an interception at the 5-yard line on a pass interference. But finished today 16 of 25 for 238 yards, 4 touchdowns, no turnovers, ran for 2 scores, and basically did it in a half. He had a 27-yard touchdown pass in the second half. That was the only play he was involved in the second half. So, started to get a little bit more comfortable with those receivers on the outside after kind of really struggling to throw outside the numbers against East Carolina. It's good effort. He's gotten a lot of game balls, I'm sure, over the years. Just another one for him. But when you tie a school record that Phillip Rivers and Mike Glennon share, you get a game ball.
Well said. Devin Leary, well-deserved game ball. I'll go to the defense since, yes, the defense did not have a shutout, but it did hold Charleston Southern to just 3 points. And as we mentioned earlier in the pod, Charleston Southern had no chance in the first half when the first stringers were out there. I'm going to give my game ball to Tyler Baker Williams. Not as much a guy that I feel like is maybe underappreciated in that NC State secondary. You know, there's a lot of talk about Tanner Engel and Derek Pitts and you know, I mean, a lot of the defensive backs. Tyler Baker Williams plays the nickel position. Everybody in the defensive backfield says that the nickel position is the hardest to play. Today, forced a fumble, had a TFL and a half, had an interception. I mean, had an interception last week. He's just stepping up, making plays. That's what you want from your defense. A bunch of playmakers that can go out there and get a turnover and change the impact of a game. So yeah, you didn't need those 2 turnovers today, but you might need them next week against Texas Tech. So Tyler Baker Williams, that's who my game ball's going to. I mean, I'd give the game ball to the whole defense because I just love watching this defense play. I mean, just it's nice to see this NC State defense fully healthy. I know we didn't see Peyton Wilson out there today, but you know, when everybody's out there, when all the 1As are out there, this is a damn good defense. So I can't wait to see it go head-to-head against some competitive offenses here soon. But that'll about do it for this podcast. We'll be back later next week for Texas Tech preview. Before we sign out here, some quick reminders. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast wherever you listen to us. We're on Apple, Spotify, Google Play, wherever you listen to podcasts. Plus, you can always watch us on YouTube, where you should subscribe to our YouTube channel. Give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment while you're at it. We're on social media. You can follow our main account at the Wolfpacker on Twitter. You can give me a follow at Justin H. Will on Twitter and give us a like on Facebook, NC State Wolfpack on thewolfpacker.com. Last but not least, sign up for that special deal. Just $1 gets you a year's worth of premium subscription to thewolfpacker.com as part of the On3 network. Everything insider NC State athletic information, news as soon as it comes out. Matt is in with the insiders. So you want to know what Matt knows. And if you want to know what Matt knows, you need to be a member of thewolfpacker.com. So sign up. $1 gets you a year's worth of premium subscription, and you won't regret it. So go do that. That's going to do it for this Wolfpacker podcast. So for Matt Carter, this is Justin Williams, and this has been the Wolfpacker podcast.